We are back, and we're going to take a look at this stupid press conference that happened yesterday, and we're going to talk about it. Here we go.
Hi, everyone. Moments ago, the president and Elon Musk were in the Oval Office answering questions. Let's listen.
X, are you okay? This is X.
Yeah, this thing where Elon brings his kid everywhere. Now, some people are saying it was after the assassination attempt with President Trump, or the Luigi, the CEO, got popped off. So he carries his kid on his shoulders, blocking his head so he doesn't get a headshot. That's what some people are saying. I mean, maybe not. But, you know, he named the kid X, the letter X. It's just the stupidest thing on the planet. He brings his kid to these press conferences and in the Oval Office, and the kid at one point tells Trump to shut up. Stop talking to Trump. He climbs all over him like a monkey the whole time. It's very disrespectful. Even when he starts taking questions from the reporters, the kid's climbing on his head. And I don't get where they think this is okay. I never want to hear a Republican talk shit about a tan suit in the Oval Office again when Trump is inviting morons into his Oval Office and having kids climb all over them and telling Trump to shut up. Let's never go there with tan suits again, but let's watch this fucking circus.
And he's a great guy, high IQ. He's a high IQ individual.
And he's got this, check out this cool chain.
Check out his cool chain he's got.
So
Yeah, he's got a
very
cool
much. We had
chain.
busy day today. The king just left, and we've had a great discussion, terrific discussion concerning Gaza and everything else. We had discussions also about Saturday at 12 o'clock. It's going to be a big moment. We'll see what happens. I don't expect much happening with these people, but we'll see what happens. And we're going to be signing a very important.
Oh God, we're going to skip to Elon Musk.
This is the.
Are we in a democracy? Well, if you don't have a feedback loop, okay, we would have to. If you
See what I mean? See what I mean? Like, somebody take the kid out into the other room.
Gravitas can be difficult sometimes.
Gravitas can be difficult sometimes.
So
Go back to South Africa.
If there's not a good feedback loop from the people to the government, and if you have rule of the bureaucrat, or if the bureaucracy is in charge, and then what meaning does democracy actually have? If the people cannot vote and have their will be decided by their elected representatives in the form of the president and the...
Let's be clear. All of the cuts, the $1 trillion cuts, the this, that, all those cuts, which the people will suffer from, is to offset what the tax cuts that are coming down the road that Trump will sign into law this year, which will take effect in 2026, because we're still in Trump's tax plan. We've been in Trump's tax plan since 2017 when they went into effect. They go for like 10 years or whatever the case may be. And so the whole time everyone's been suffering under Biden's tax. Biden never passed a tax plan. We've always been under Trump's the whole time. And so all these cuts that they're trying to do is to offset what the billionaires and the corporations are going to get. Don't be fooled that they're cutting to save the government, this, that, and the other, and make things more efficient. Don't believe that bullshit. That's just a bullshit line. You got to be able to cut through the bullshit.
Senate and the House, then we don't live in a democracy. We live in a bureaucracy. So it's incredibly important that
we're actually living in an oligarchy right now.
That feedback loop, we fix that feedback loop, and that the public's elected representatives, the president, the House, and the Senate, decide what happens, as opposed to a large unelected bureaucracy. This is not to say that there are good people who are in the federal bureaucracy, but you can't have an autonomous federal bureaucracy. You have to have one that's responsive to the people. That's the whole point of a democracy. And if you looked at this, if you looked at the founders today and said, what do you think of the way things have turned out? Well, we have this unelected, fourth unconstitutional branch of government, which is the bureaucracy, which has, in a lot of ways, currently more power than any elected representative.
That's just not true. The elected representatives pass the bills. They're the ones that pass the bills. Congress, the House, the Senate, and then the president signs it into law. So the buck stops there. So, where was all this efficiency when Trump ran the first time? It wasn't there. He passed his tax cuts and we went trillions of dollars into deficit because of his tax cuts. So, again, this is how do we cut the taxes so that the billionaires can get their stuff. And the only way to do it is to take it away from everyone else, the basic services and stuff that everyone else needs. Is there fraud? There's fraud in every company. I don't give a shit what it is. And yes, there's fraud in the government, but is it to the extent that this knucklehead's telling people? No, it's not.
And this is not something that people want. And it's not, it does not match the will of the people. So it's just something we've got to fix. And then we've also got to address the deficit. So we've got a $2 trillion deficit. And if we don't do something about this deficit, the country's going bankrupt. I mean, it's really astounding.
Again, they want to do something about the deficit because they know the tax code that they're going to put into place is going to blow the deficit up again. It's going to double it. So how do you do that? You cut everything else to get down to a zero-sum game in their eyes.
Astounding that the interest payments alone on the national debt exceed the Defense Department budget, which is shocking because we spend a lot of money on defense. But and if that,
yeah, let's see if he cuts defense. Though the $890 billion a year we spend on defense. Let's see if he goes there. He's going for small hanging fruit right now. U.S. aid, the AID, that this is where they're going first. They're going to the Department of Education. If you look at a pie chart of the government budget, he's going after 1%, 3%, 2%. That's where he's going. But he's not going there. And then even Trump says later on in this thing that I've told him to go look in the military. It's bullshit. Elon Musk wants military contracts. So why is he going to cut the military budget?
It just keeps going. We're essentially going to bankrupt the country. So what I really want to say is it's not optional for us to reduce the federal expenses. It's essential. It's essential for America to remain solvent as a country. And it's essential for America to have the resources necessary to provide things to its citizens and not simply be servicing vast amounts of debt.
And also, could you mention some of the things that your team has found?
Yeah, he's about to mention things his team has found, but they're so vague. He doesn't give clear answers. He just, how did somebody get $30 million? But he didn't name who the person was. So, didn't name what department it was from. How did somebody get this? How did somebody get that? See, it's just full of shit. It's just, again, throwing out red meat without any substance.
Some of the crazy numbers, including the woman that walked away with about 30 million.
Right.
Etc.
Well, we do find it sort of rather odd that there are quite a few people in the bureaucracy who have ostensibly a salary of a few $100,000, but somehow manage to accrue tens of millions of dollars in net worth while they are in that position.
Yeah, this is rich coming from the billionaire who wasn't worth what he was worth until he sold PayPal and got $150 million. So again, that's like saying anyone can start out here, but they can't gain money. Like how does that happen? Someone has what was Elon Musk's salary before he sold PayPal? What was his salary? 100,000, 50,000, and all of a sudden he makes 150 million. Well, how did he do that? Okay, so again, he's not showing any substance here. He's not calling out the person, not saying what the military contract was or whatever the contract was. If it was from US AID, he's not calling out that stuff. He's just giving these broad strokes, if you will. And we've always heard this thing with all politicians where they go in and every politician makes $170,000 a year, 175,000, and then they come out millionaires. Yeah, we know it's because of insider trading, because they shape legislation and they buy stock before their legislation is presented, and then the stock goes through the roof. I mean, and that's both sides of the aisle. They're both guilty of that. But to act like this is something new, to act like this is, and not given any proof.
Which is, what happened to USAID. We're just curious as to where it came from. Maybe they're very good at investing, in which case we should take their investment advice, perhaps.
Yeah, maybe you should take their investment advice because you're suffering between Twitter and between Tesla right now. Yeah, your stock is suffering.
Just there seems to be mysteriously they get wealthy. We don't know why. Where does it come from?
So it's mysterious that people just become wealthy. We're all wondering how the hell you become wealthy. I mean, again, like throwing out these keywords like mysterious and this, that, and the other. Sure, there's fraud in the government. Sure, there's fraud in corporate, the corporate situations all around the world. But don't act like this is some new thing. And without giving proof of what he's talking about, he's just throwing red meat out there.
I think the reality is that they're getting wealthy at the taxpayer expense. That's the honest truth of it. So,
yeah, that's rich coming from the guy that has more government contracts than anyone on the planet is Elon Musk. Yeah, you're getting rich off the taxpayers. That's what you do. Trump, his whole family made over $1 billion in the course of when he got in in 2016. And I know everybody's, oh, Trump gave away his $400,000 salary for the first 3 years of his administration. And the last year he didn't give it away to charity, but he made $1 billion. What's $400,000 after taxes? Because they tax it because it's a payroll. What is that? That's nothing when you can charge $8,000 a golf cart to the taxpayers to rent them for the Secret Service, rent whole wings of Mar-a-Lago for Secret Service, rent a whole floor on Trump Tower in New York to protect Melania and Barron for the first 2 years of his first administration. Yeah, he bilked the taxpayer out of so much money. So this kind of stuff is such hypocrisy, especially coming from the guy who's got more government contracts than anyone on the planet.
Looking at, say, we just if you look at say Treasury, for example.
I can't stand how he talks.
Basic controls that should be in place, that are in place in any company, such as making sure that any given payment has a payment categorization code, that there is a comment field that describes the payment. And that if a payment is on the do not pay list, that you don't actually pay it. None of those things are true currently. So the reason that
just taking his word at this at face value means nothing. He's saying that there is no system in place, no checks and balances, that they're just sending out blank checks to companies. Like you got to show the proof. You can't just stand there with your kid on your shoulders telling us bullshit in a press conference. The proof has to be shown, but they're not showing the proof.
Can't pass audits is because the payments don't have a categorization code. It's like just a massive number of blank checks just flying out the building. So you can't reconcile blank checks. You've got comment fields that are also blank, so you don't know why the payment was made. And then we've got this truly absurd, a do not pay list, which can take up to a year for an organization to get on a do not pay list. And this, we're talking about terrorist organizations, we're talking about known fraudsters, known aspects of waste, known things that do not match any congressional appropriation.
Who are known fraudsters? Tell us the fraudsters. Who are the known fraudsters? You know, this is the thing. Like, you can throw out, oh yeah, we got these fraud. We know this fraud's there. Where? What's the name?
It can take up to a year to get on the list. And even once on the list is not used. It's mind-blowing. So what we're talking about here, we're really just talking about adding common sense controls that should be present, that haven't been present. So you say, like, well, how could such a thing arise? That seems crazy. When you understand that really everything is geared towards complaint minimization, so then you understand the motivations. So if people receive money, they don't complain, obviously. But if people don't receive money, they do complain. And the fraudsters complain the loudest and the fastest. So then when you understand that, then it makes sense. Oh, that's why everything just, they approve all the...
I'd love to see the cue cards he's reading off of, because he's obviously got slug lines on cue cards to stay on track because he's, jacked up on ketamine.
Payments at Treasury. Because if you approve all the payments, you don't get complaints. But now we're saying that, no, actually, we are going to complain. If money is spent badly, if your taxpayer dollars are not spent in a sensible and frugal manner, then that's not okay. Your tax dollars need to be spent wisely on things that matter to the people. I mean, these things, like, it's just common sense. It's not draconian or radical, I think. It's really just saying, let's look at each of these expenditures and say, is this actually in the best interest of the people? And if it is, it's approved. If it's not, we should think about it. So, there's crazy things like we just cursory examination of Social Security, and we've got people in there that are 150 years old.
Okay, we've got people in there that are 150 years old. Okay, yeah, does that mean they're getting a check? Does that mean a check is going out? Or does it just have the population of the people in the data banks that when Social Security started? Like, that's the question. But there's no answer given here. And he just doesn't give that answer. There's just people in the system that are 150 years old. Just like there's a lot of dead people that never took themselves off the voter rolls before they died. And yes, those things need to be purged. But just because there's people in there that are 150 years old does not mean they're getting Social Security checks and people are cashing them. This is the bullshit that we're talking about.
Now, do you know anyone who's 150? I don't know. Okay. They should be on the Guinness Book of World Records. They're missing out. So, that's a case where, like, I think they're probably dead.
Yeah, see, but he doesn't say they're getting money. He doesn't say a check is being mailed to them.
It's my guess. Or they should be very famous, one of the two. And then there's a whole bunch of Social Security payments where there's no identifying information. Well, like, why is there no identifying information? Obviously, you want to make...
If there's no identifying information and these checks go out, banks don't cash them. It could just be a clerical thing that got missed. But a bank can't cash a check without any name, without any identification, without anything. So, and who's to say those checks are actually going out? If there's no identifying stuff on the check, where does it get mailed to? This is what the thing about what Musk is saying. And this is what he's going for. Let me explain to you what Musk is going for. Musk wants to create software he can sell to the government to redo all this stuff. So again, he's trying to get a government contract to clean up old databases. This is what it's about. It's about another government contract. Got Starlink, got SpaceX. This is about government contracts. Just the other day, Intuit and TurboTax, they lost 2% market share because as soon as he got access to the Treasury stuff, there was a comment made that he wanted to come up with software tied to his X platform where people can file their taxes directly to the government. Another government contract. And that would cut out TurboTax. That would cut out because he could offer it probably for, instead of, $75 or $20, whatever they do for TurboTax, he could offer it for $5. And then if you've got, 180 million people that pay taxes have to file at $5 a pop, boom, more money. And then that's another company that he has started. So like, these are the things that he's looking for. Okay. He's looking how to tweak things so that he can make money, and just pay attention because it's coming.
We want to make sure that people who deserve to receive Social Security do receive it, and that they receive it quickly and accurately. Also, another crazy thing. So, one of the things is, like, we are trying to sort of right-size the federal bureaucracy, just make sure that this, obviously there need to be a lot of people working for the federal government, but not as many as currently. So we're saying, well, okay, if people can retire, with full benefits and everything, that would be good. They can retire, get their retirement payments, everything. And then we were told.
And again, cutting thousands and thousands of workers means people can't see what you're doing. And then that you're also saving all this money because, again, they're looking to blow up the deficit and they have to figure out how to do it. So, with every company, they always go for payroll first, cut the payroll. So it's cheaper to cut the payroll and pay people out their benefits than it is to keep them on. And so again, this is a way for them to get their tax breaks, the billionaires to get their tax breaks.
This is actually, I think, a great anecdote because we're told the most number of people that could retire possibly in a month is 10,000. We're like, well, why is that? Well, because all the retirement paperwork is manual on paper.
See, right there. All the retirement paperwork is manual. When Obamacare was created, they spent $380 million hiring Oracle or somebody, whoever the company was, to create the portal and the website for everyone to log into. He wants to do software. See, that's why when Tesla sales are slipping and all that, he's already looking at like how he's going to diversify and software, you know, and that's what Tesla too, like it's the software he's going to be selling. It's the battery packs to other car makers that he wants to sell. It's, you know, it's the technology. It's not necessarily, he could care less if Tesla goes under as long as everyone buys all the components and stuff that make those Teslas good. I'm telling you, this is a play to introduce software and get a government contract.
Manually calculated, then written down on a piece of paper. Then it goes down a mine. And I'm like, what do you mean a mine? Like, yeah, there's a limestone mine where we store all the retirement paperwork. And you look at a picture of this mine.
Yeah, I'm sure there's lots of mines all around the country prior to when they could put things on CD or when they can put things, you know, so yes, there's paperwork, but all this stuff has to be archived. You know, they always say when it goes to filing your own taxes, always keep 7 years worth of records on file. Well, let's just say the government did that prior to the internet, you know, in the 90s. Well, everything's going to be in bankers' boxes stacked up somewhere in mine shafts or wherever their storage is so that they can access this stuff. So again, he wants to streamline it. You know, you go from paper to microfiche, to floppy disk, to CD, you know, to hard drive, to right. So that's how technology works. So when he's referencing these things, he's talking about the old stuff. You know, this is what he's talking about. And again, he just wants to sell the government a way to do it with software.
We'll post some pictures afterwards. And this mine looks like something out of the 50s because it was started in 1955. So it looks like it's...
Yeah, started in 1955. And then like Social Security started in the 60s. Medicaid was in the 60s. Medicare, like these policies, you know, but I guarantee a lot of the stuff with Obamacare, when Obamacare was created, is all done digitally because that's how technology works. He knows this.
It's like a time warp. And then the speed, the limiting factor is the speed at which the mine shaft elevator can move determines how many people can retire from the federal government. And the elevator breaks down sometimes, and then nobody can retire.
How do you know the elevator breaks down? Like what? And then nobody can retire because the elevator. This is dumb. Dumb.
Doesn't that sound crazy?
Yeah, it fucking sounds crazy coming out of your mouth.
Like 1,000 people that work on this. So I think if we take those people and say, like, you know what, instead of working in a mine shaft and carrying manila envelopes to, you know, boxes in a mine shaft, you could do practically anything else. And you would add to the goods and services of the United States in a more useful way. So anyway, so I think, you know, that's an example. Like at a high level, if you say, like, how do we increase prosperity, is we get people to shift from roles that are low to negative productivity to high productivity roles. And so increase the total output of goods and services, which means that
yeah, you know what could do take the manila envelope down the elevator shaft? A fucking Tesla robot drone. You know, that's what he's looking at too. You know, he made a bold statement the other day that he was going to have 20 or 30,000 in the next 5 years in people's houses and stuff. Yeah, replacing people with robots.
There's a higher standard of living available for everyone. That's the actual goal. Everyone's very quiet. Well, people normally is quiet?
Your detractors, Mr. Musk,
What?
including a lot of Democrats,
I have detractors?
You do, sir.
I don't believe it.
Say that you're orchestrating a hostile takeover of government and doing it in a non-transparent way. What's your response to that criticism?
Well, first of all, you couldn't ask for a stronger mandate from the public.
It wasn't a strong mandate. You know, that's the whole thing. You know, yes, they won both houses and the executive branch, but it wasn't by big margins. It wasn't. Once all the vote tallies were in, it wasn't by big margins. It's not a mandate. So that's just ridiculous.
The public voted. We have a majority of the public voting for President Trump. We won the House. We won the Senate. The people voted for major government reform. There should be no doubt about that. That was on the campaign. The president spoke about that at every rally. The people voted for major government reform, and that's what people are going to get. They're going to get what they voted for. And a lot of times, people that don't get what they voted for, but in this presidency, they are going to get what they voted for. And that's what democracy is all about.
Ever since Kimora was a little girl, she had her sights set on the sky, and Spectrum Internet brought the sky.
Mr. Musk, the White House says that you will identify and excuse yourself from any conflicts of interest that you may have. Does that mean that you are in effect policing yourself? What are the checks and balances that are in place to ensure that there is accountability and transparency?
Well, we actually are trying to be as transparent as possible. In fact, we post our actions to the D.O.G.E handle on X and to the D.O.G.E website. So all of our actions are maximally transparent. In fact,
here's the problem: they're posting on D.O.G.E and they're posting on X. And like, I don't have an X account, Twitter account anymore. It's still called Twitter. I don't give a shit what anybody says. And, you know, where is the D.O.G.E site? I'm not seeing that.
in fact, I don't think there's been, I don't know of a case where an organization has been more transparent than the D.O.G.E organization.
Bullshit.
You
can't be transparent when you lock the doors of the buildings and don't let anyone in. You want to be transparent, you let people look over your shoulder and see what you're doing.
You know, and the kind of things we're doing are, I think, very, very simple and basic. They're not, you know, what I mentioned, for example, about Treasury, just making sure that payments that go out, taxpayer money that goes out, is categorized correctly, that the payment is explained, that organizations on the do not pay list, which takes a lot to get there, that actually are not paid, which currently they are paid. These are not individual judgment decisions. These are about simply having sensible checks and balances in the system itself to ensure that taxpayer money is spent well. So it's got nothing to do with, like, say, a contract with some company of mine at all.
But if there is a conflict of interest when it comes to you yourself, for instance, you've received billions of dollars in federal contracts. When it comes to the Pentagon, for instance, which the president, I know, has directed you to look into.
Yeah.
Are you policing yourself in that? Is there any sort of accountability check and balance in place that would provide any transparency for the American people?
Well, all of our actions are fully public. So if you see anything, you say, like, wait a second, hey, Elon, that seems like maybe that's, you know, there's a conflict there. It's not like people are going to be shy about saying that. They'll say it immediately. You know?
Yeah, you know, it's just like, he says this, but, you know, he's the first person to file a lawsuit against somebody. Like,
Including you yourself.
Yes, but transparency is what builds trust, not simply somebody asserting trust.
yeah, where's the transparency with D.O.G.E? It's not there. It's not there. When they show up to the Department of Education, they lock the doors with private security. That's not even government security. Yeah, no, that's some shady stuff.
So not somebody saying they're trustworthy, but transparency, so you can see everything that's going on. And then you can see, am I doing something that benefits one of my companies or not? It's totally obvious.
And we thought that we would not let him do that segment or look in that area if we thought there was a lack of transparency or a conflict of interest. And we watched that also. He's a big businessman. He's a successful guy. That's why we want him doing this. We don't want an unsuccessful guy doing this. Now, one thing also that Elon hasn't really mentioned are the groups of people that are getting some of these payments. They're ridiculous. And we're talking about billions of dollars that we've already found. We found fraud and abuse.
Show us the fraud.
I would say those two words as opposed to the third word that I usually use, but in this case, fraud and abuse. It's abuse.
How about charging $8,000 for a golf cart? You know, the taxpayers are paying that much money. How about tripling the rates at Mar-a-Lago for Secret Service? Yeah. How about that's abuse? That's fraud and abuse.
Because most of these things are virtually made up, or certainly money shouldn't be sent to them. And you know what I'm talking about. It's crazy.
Do we know what you're talking about? Because you're not really telling us an example.
So, but we're talking about tens of billions of dollars that we've already found. And now a judge who's an activist judge wants to try.
An activist judge. I love that. Yeah. Yeah. One of the judges was somebody you appointed back in 2016. So I love that. Activist judge.
And stop us from doing this. Why? Why would they want to do that? I campaigned on this. I campaigned
because you can't just turn the faucet off on money that's already been allocated by Congress. You don't have the fucking power.
The fact that I said government is corrupt. And it is very corrupt. It's very, very, it's also foolish. As an example, a man has a contract for 3 months and the contract ends, but they keep paying him for the next 20 years, because nobody ends a contract. You get a lot of that. You have a contract that's
yeah, give us the example. Make those companies pay it back if that's the case. But I'm not seeing that example.
a 3-month contract. Now, normally, if you're in a small, in all fairness, it's the size of this thing is so big.
Yeah.
But if you have a contract and you're in a regular business, you end the contract in 3 months. It's a consultant. Here's a contract for 3 months, but it goes on for 20 years. And the guy doesn't say that he got money for 20 years. They don't say it. They just keep getting checks month after month. And
give us the example. You're not giving us the example. You're talking in circles.
Various things like that, and even much worse than that, actually, much worse. And I guess you call that incompetence, maybe.
Yeah.
It could be corruption. It could be a deal's made on both sides, where the guy gets the money, he kicks. I think there's a lot of kickback here. I see a lot of kickback here.
There's a lot of kickbacks.
Tremendous kickback, because nobody could be so stupid to give out some of these contracts. So he has to get a kickback. So that's what I got elected for, that and borders and military and a lot of things, but this is a big part of it. And
this is a big part of it because you need your tax cuts and you got to cut everything you can.
I hope that the court system is going to allow us to do what we have to do. We got elected to
the court system is going to follow the law.
Other things, fine, all of this fraud and abuse, all of this horrible stuff going on. And we've already found billions of dollars, not like a little bit, billions, many billions of dollars. And when you get down to it, it's going to be probably close to $1 trillion. It could be close to $1 trillion that we're going to find. That will have quite an impact on the budget.
Yeah, because they need that trillion to offset the tax cuts.
And you'll go to a judge where they handpick a judge and he has certain leanings. I'm not knocking anybody for that, but he has certain leanings and he wants us to stop looking. How do you stop looking? I mean, we've already found it. We have a case in New York where a hotel has paid $59 million, $59 million because it's housing migrants, illegal migrants.
No illegal migrants. How about asylum seekers? How about people that already have paperwork in?
All illegal, I believe.
But remember, he's tripling his rates at his Trump Tower, tripling his rates at Mar-a-Lago, $8,000 for a golf cart.
And they were being paid twice the normal room rate at 100% occupancy.
Unbelievable.
So it's a racket.
Mr. Musk, I'm going to ask a question.
Well, if I may sort of just going for the president's comments, at a high level, you say, well, what are the two ingredients that are really necessary in order to cut the budget deficit in half from 2 trillion to 1 trillion? And it's really two things: competence and caring. And if you add
competence, yeah, you got a 19-year-old running around accessing data, and a 25-year-old that has a bunch of racist stuff on Reddit, and I mean, come on, man, like you got teenagers working for you. That's not the people.
Competence and caring.
Competence.
You'll cut the budget deficit in half. And I fully expect to be scrutinized and get a daily proctology exam, basically. Might as well just camp out there. So it's not
Yeah, because you're full of shit.
like I think I can get away with something. I'll be scrutinized nonstop. And
You can't be scrutinized if you lock the doors and you don't let anyone in.
but with support of the president, we can cut the budget deficit in half from 2 trillion to 1, and then with deregulation, because there's a lot of sort of regulations that don't ultimately serve the public good. We need to free the builders of America to build, and if we do that, that means I think we can get the economic growth to be maybe 3-4%, maybe 5%.
Now, listen, Trump talked about during his administration getting 3, 5, 6, 7% GDP growth, and that never happened on his watch back then. So yeah, when you hear that stuff, it's horseshit.
And that means if you can get $1 trillion of economic growth and you cut the budget deficit by $1 trillion, between now and next year, there is no inflation. There's no inflation in 26. And if the government is not borrowing as much, it means that interest costs decline. So the mortgage, their car payment, their credit card.
If they think that the mortgage companies are going to drop rates on people that already have existing homes because the interest rate dropped, I mean, yeah, you could refinance. Yeah, you could find credit cards with cheaper rates, but that's just not how it works. When interest rates drop, that doesn't mean across the board all the companies go, well, I guess we'll drop the interest rate on all of our shit for everyone. It doesn't work that way.
Bills, anything, their student debt, the monthly payments drop. That's a fantastic scenario for the average American. I mean, imagine they're going down the grocery aisle and the prices from one year to the next are the same.
That's never going to happen. Prices always increase. It's just never going to happen. And they haven't done shit right now. And cutting the deficit is not going to make the eggs go down, the gas go down. None of this is how it works. He's feeding you a bunch of bullshit.
And their mortgage, all the debt payments dropped. How great is that for the average American?
We had no idea we were going to find this much. And it's open. It's not like complicated. It's
not
simple stuff.
It's like a lot of work. Yeah.
You can't believe it. A lot of work, a lot of smart people involved, very, very smart people. But you're talking about anywhere, maybe 500 billion. It's crazy the kind of numbers you're talking
really crazy.
about. Normally when you're looking at something, you'll find you're looking for 1 out of 100. Here, you're almost reversing it. You look for one that's good.
Yeah.
And you can look at the title and you say, why are we doing this? Why are we doing that? And the public gets it. The public gets it. You've seen the polls. The public is saying, why are we paying all this money? This for years, this has gone on.
President Trump,
Yeah, go ahead. Wait, go ahead.
Senator Rand Paul today said that DOGE cuts will ultimately need a vote in Congress. Do you agree with that? Is that the
I
plan?
really don't know. I know this. We're finding tremendous fraud and tremendous abuse. If I need a vote of Congress to find fraud and abuse, it's fine with me. I think we'll get the vote, although there'll be some people that wouldn't vote. And how could a judge want to hold us back from finding all of this fraud and finding all of this incompetence?
It's too bad we can't. It's too bad we couldn't investigate all of Trump's fraud.
Why would that happen? Why would even Congress want to do that? Now, Congress, if we do need a vote, I think we'd get a very easy vote because we have a track record now. We've already found billions of dollars of abuse, incompetence, and corruption. A lot of corruption.
If a judge does block.
If there's corruption, where are the charges? Build the case, arrest the people, bring them in, put them in jail. Like you're not, again, it's just, they don't have anything.
One of your policies, part of your agenda. Will you abide by that ruling? Will you comply?
Well, I always abide by the courts, and then I'll have to appeal it. But then what he's done is he slowed down the momentum, and it gives crooked people more time to cover up the books. If a person's crooked and they
you can't cover up the books if all of it is public record there within those walls of those buildings. It's just such a horseshit statement.
get caught, other people see that, and all of a sudden it becomes harder later on. So, yeah, the answer is I always abide by the courts, always abide by them, and will appeal. But appeals take a long time, and I would hope that a judge, if you go into a judge and you show him, here's a corrupt situation, we have a check to be sent, but we found it to be corrupt. Do you want us to send this corrupt check to a person, or do you want us not to give it and give it back to the taxpayer?
Or how about arrest the corrupt person? Like this is the thing. He left that out, right? Oh, well, if they're corrupt, we just stop sending the check. But we don't do anything about the corruption.
I would hope a judge would say, don't send it, give it back to the taxpayer.
Yeah, if I can add to that, what we're finding is that a bunch of the fraud is not even going to Americans. So I think we can all agree that if there's going to be fraud, it should at least go to Americans.
You're from South Africa, and you've got massive government contracts, taxpayer money. You know, we'd love for it to go to an American, but you're from South Africa.
But a bunch of the fraud rings that are operating in the United States and taking advantage of the federal government, especially in the entitlements programs, are actually foreign fraud rings. They're operating in other countries and actually exporting money to other countries. We should stop that. And this is big numbers. Talking about $100 to $200 billion a year. Serious money.
Mr. Musk, you said on X that an example of the fraud that you have cited was $50 million of condoms was sent to Gaza. But after fact check this, apparently Gaza in Mozambique, and the program was to protect them against HIV. So can you correct the statements? It wasn't sent to Hamas, actually. It was sent to Mozambique, which makes sense why condoms was sent there.
Yeah.
And how
See, here's the problem with Elon Musk. When he puts out a tweet talking about $50 million in condoms going to Gaza or going to Hamas because he didn't know that there was a Gaza in Mozambique. You know, just like there's a Wilmington, Delaware and a Wilmington, North Carolina. And, you know, there's an Akron here and an Akron there. And it's like there's always doubles of things. So he says $50 million in condoms went to Hamas. That tweet gets 20, 30 million views and retweets, and it becomes what the psyche of those followers believe is true. Now, when he corrects something so far down the chain of that, after millions of people have already commented, it may only get 10,000 views of the correction. So this is the problem where what he says next is horseshit.
How can we make sure that all the statements that you said were correct, so we can trust what you say?
Well, first of all, some of the things that I say will be incorrect.
Some of the things I say will be incorrect. Okay. Which means I think he knew exactly what the fuck he was saying. It was misdirection to get people riled up. And, you know, it's like, because he's got that, you can't take it back once it goes out into the fucking internet. You can't take it back. And that's how they brainwash people. That's how QAnon, that's how all this shit starts, is you say one thing and then the gossip goes and goes and goes, and you can't put that back. You can't put that genie back in the bottle. So what he needs to do is make sure he says accurate shit, but he doesn't. He tweets 200 times a day like a fucking idiot. And he's constantly putting out shit that gets debunked.
And should be corrected. So nobody's going to bat 1,000. I mean, we will make mistakes, but we'll act quickly to correct it.
He doesn't act quickly to correct shit. He doesn't.
Mistakes. I'm not sure we should be sending $50 million worth of condoms to anywhere.
All right. Follow this line of thinking. I'm not sure we should send $50 million worth of condoms anywhere.
Frankly, I'm not sure that's something Americans would be really excited about. And that is really an enormous number of condoms, if you think about it.
That's an enormous number of condoms. Yeah. That's not. When you spread it out over a country, that's not. But that's not the point. Wait and watch how the hypocrisy kicks right in.
But if it went to Mozambique instead of Gaza, I'm like, okay, that's not as bad, but still, why are we doing that?
Why are we doing that? Why are we doing that? Why are we doing that? Would it be to prevent HIV and STDs from spreading? You know, people get on planes and they fly all around the world. Do you think that might be what it was for? Watch the hypocrisy coming right here on that statement.
Mr. Musk, can you talk a little bit about how closely you're working with agency heads as you're directing these cuts? Do they have the how much input do agency heads have when you're making these decisions?
Yeah, we work closely with the agency heads. Yeah, there are sort of checks in place. So it's not just us just going in and doing things willy-nilly. It's in partnership with the agency heads, and I check frequently with the president to make sure that this
Oh, that little kid just said, "Shut your mouth," to somebody.
is what the president wants to have happen. So we talk almost every day, and I double check things to make sure, is this something, Mr. President, you want us to do this? Then we'll do it.
USAID has been one of your main targets. Are you concerned at all that some of the cuts or that shutting that agency altogether may lead to diseases or other bigger problems starting in other countries that then come to the United States?
Here's the hypocrisy.
Yeah, so that's an interesting example. So that's something where we work closely.
We've been listening to Elon Musk and President Trump speak from the Oval Office. The president signing an executive order to force federal agencies to coordinate and consult.
All right, so CBS is talking over this, but he says right here, we have not cut funding for Ebola, and we have not cut funding for
With D.O.G.E.
HIV. Right there, he just said HIV. Okay, 50 million in condoms is part of the HIV program to stop. So on one hand, he cites nobody wants to send condoms anywhere, and on the other hand, we're not cutting HIV. Remember, USAID, this division, was also a big thing of George W. Bush to help stop the spread of HIV. That was almost like on his second term, that was his like outgoing, like big deal that he was pushing, was to stop the AIDS as best he could, the HIV. So 1 second, Elon Musk is saying, well, I don't think the American people like condoms going anywhere. And then on the other, well, we're not going to stop the funding for. So I guarantee if you follow the funding, I guarantee they're going to get the 50. And it works out to be something like 3 to 4 cents per condom. Just so that you know, if I need to go get condoms, I'm spending $12, $13 for 6. They're getting 3 cents a condom. So it's something like 1 billion condoms at $50 million. And that's a lot of condoms, but the population is huge in other countries. It's not just the United States. We got 350 million people in the US. There's 1 billion people in India, or the 3 billion people in China, the entire continent of Africa, But see, the thing about Elon Musk is he's from South Africa and he grew up in apartheid. He could give 2 shits if the people in Mozambique get condoms. He would give 2 shits if they all started getting HIV and dying, because he's a racist.
Of government efficiency. I want to bring in our chief Washington
All right, so
Major
again,
Garrett.
the rest of it is a bunch of horse shit. But the bottom line is this: Elon Musk is a piece of shit. He's tricking the world. The rest of the world sees it. The rest of the world sees it. Okay. If you check out BBC or you check out other networks, Australia, Germany, and you watch their news, the United States is a fucking laughing stock right now. And everybody is doing things in their countries to ban Elon Musk from getting involved in politics and his dark money to shape the narratives everywhere. He would have no problem wiping out the black race. And again, this is his MO: get government contracts, get greedy, get all the wealth he can. The guy's ego's crazy. He's got like 11 kids or something. Can't keep his dick in his pants, wants to repopulate the earth, wants to go to Mars. He's never going to Mars. The guy's he's never fucking going to Mars. He's never going to Mars. Never. We're watching the downfall of this guy. And let me tell you something. He better watch his back, because he's putting a bullseye right on himself. Globally, somebody in another country is going to snap. Somebody in another country is going to put a hit out on him. I would be shocked if he survives the next 10 years. I'd be shocked. Absolutely shocked at the rate he's going and the shit that he's pulling. That wasn't a real press conference. That there was no real information shared, just more rumors and conjecture and, oh, this is what we found. Show us the fucking proof.